Hello, everybody. My name is Kat Cosgrove. This is my lovely crew of panelists, all of whom you've seen speak in the last couple of days. If you don't know who I am, I'm a Kubernetes maintainer. I own the release team subproject. I'm a tech lead for SIG Docs, and I'm also the head of developer advocacy at Minimus. As you can see from the now frozen captions, I do also sometimes say terrible things online. I maintain that my Twitter and Blue Sky accounts are non-professional social media accounts, so I don't know, don't go look if you want Kubernetes contact. But before we get going, would y'all like to introduce yourself briefly for those of the audience who didn't see your talks?
Yeah, well, I'll just go first and we go down the group. Cool. So my name is Lian. I am a freelance platform engineer, chief karaoke officer, the shit talker extraordinaire.
Hello, I'm Rory. I'm a senior security researcher and advocate at Datadog, and I help on Kubernetes SIG security in my spare time.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Foxwell. It's very hard to describe what I do because I have multiple jobs where I wear multiple hats. But basically, I'm an independent advisor and creator, and I'm on a bit of an AI adventure right now.
Hold on, there we go.
Bleeding edge of tech.
It's a good start. Kat promised me beer, so I'm like anything I say.
I will buy you a pint after this.
Yeah, okay. I'm Matt Turner. I am here in a personal capacity at the moment, but I've previously done a lot of Kubernetes and service mesh stuff, including a fair amount of training and teaching on Kubernetes. Was involved in Kubernetes in quite the early days, helped with the Cert Manager project when things were super new, so that was fun.
Hi, my name is Whitney. I'm a senior technical advocate at Datadog. I work with Kubernetes mostly, except I decided to write an application for those of you who were at the keynote earlier. So I do whatever. Whatever people let me and give me money for, I'll do.
Oh my God. That's so valid. Banger. All right, so I'm super glad this was finally in Scotland instead of just being in London over and over. I am biased. I live here. I took a bus. It was a very, very short ride. So what was the highlight of the event for y'all? Was there a particular talk or like a friend you saw or a really interesting, weird conversation you had or some niche drama that we want to learn about?
I had a lovely chat with my friend Tim Bannister, who's front and center here. We were talking about different ways to extend Kubernetes, and he was helping me understand the aggregated API. Did I say that right? Pattern. And I slightly understand it now. Ask me later. Test me.
I was going to say it being in Edinburgh, but you stole that one.
So I'm so
I would
sorry.
say actually the highlight for me, and it's a highlight at a lot of conferences, is I work in a product company, so I don't always get to hear what end user companies are actually doing. Like, how are these things actually being used? So some of the talks over the last couple of days have been excellent, like actually seeing how real companies are doing it and how they actually make use of all the technology that's been built.
I think my highlight was Whitney's talk. I loved it so much. It was great. It was great fun. But besides that, it sounds boring and a little bit like, but just the being with the community, talking to people, learning, how are people using the technologies that I also use, and just learning like, oh, that's an interesting application. Yeah, that's always great.
I was also going to say, kudos to Whitney for taking on a live demo in a keynote, because that is fearless energy, and you smashed it. So I love that. I actually spent a bit of this afternoon mooching around with the sponsors and figuring out, because my opening question is what you doing with AI then? Because everyone's got a story, and so I actually really enjoyed that this afternoon. Everyone's trying to figure out exactly how it fits into their world, and not everyone's got their answers yet. And I think it's a really fascinating time.
Okay, so I have to ask this question, as any panel anywhere close to KubeCon has to ask it. Oh, wait, did I? Oh, Matt, run your mouth.
You made us sit in order and everything.
I'm not expecting you to speak in a line. You went out of order.
You know, you even know what my name is. It's right there.
We'll just go down the line every question.
It's fine. It's fine. I've got to give an answer now, haven't I? I'll say again.
Was it the lunch pints yesterday?
What lunch points? I don't know what you're talking about. I'll say again, yeah, it's great that it's in Scotland, not in London. I enjoyed writing my talk. I'm not making any comment on whether the end result was any good, but that process of like, I think I know this.
Yeah.
Let me just check my citation. Oh, I don't know this. Okay, let me. So that was fun. The talk from the Skyscanner folks on Istio and how they ended up with. They said they had 20 versions at once. What they mean is they skipped 20 versions because they. Because I installed Istio just before I left, version 0.1, and then I dropped the mic and walked out, and then they had to upgrade, and then they were scared of what I'd done, and then they had to upgrade a long way. So that was really fun because that was a real world example of people actually using a complicated technology and having to keep the plane flying and changing things. I actually don't currently work in cloud native, but coming along and seeing how everybody else is doing things in the real world with complicated systems, and like the patterns just map over, the patterns apply. So it's great to, and obviously catch up with everybody, right? It's great I come for the lunch pints and actually learn a bunch of stuff like while I'm here.
Yeah. The lunch pints are good. A little bit degenerate, but they're good. So how many of you are going to KubeCon Atlanta? 2 of you? Are there any particular talks you're gassed about besides the Pokemon Go keynote?
Oh, I wanted to turn the question around because I know that there are a lot of KubeCon speakers who are actually here just as participants. So give us a wave if you're actually speaking at KubeCon in Atlanta. Yeah. Cool. We've got a few. It's
Those are the ones I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. That's my answer. I will come to your talk. The thing that I'm looking forward to, and I am already dreading, is waking up early on Thursday to make sure that I catch Abby Bangs' keynote. I'm very, very excited for Abby doing that.
Yeah.
Chris Plank, are you going to wear a kilt for yours? 2 kilts at once?
2 kilts.
One for each leg? A daytime kilt and a nighttime kilt.
The fighting kilt.
Is it sequin?
Oh no,
I need
it's
to know
going to
now.
be sparkly.
Not the battle tartan.
All right, we do have to talk about the hype cycle because, obviously,
The hype cycle for what?
AI.
I'm
baby.
kidding, I was joking.
I certainly have opinions. I'm sure we all have opinions. We also all have employers who are maybe forcing us to use tools that we don't want to use or don't find useful or whatever. But tech has always been like this. It's always been very, very driven by a hype cycle. Our jobs exist because there was a hype cycle around containerization and microservices, but it did stick around and just become a part of the way technology is. So my question is, do you think AI is going to do that? Is it going to become as entrenched as something like microservices and containerization has? Or is it going to go the way of blockchain and kind of become a thing that gets usefully implemented in a few small places and otherwise disappears because it was a way for people to filch money out of VCs?
I think it'll stick around. I think it's actually already, sorry to be that guy, I know it's easy to hate on it. I think it's already shown its value. Mm-hmm. I think containerization, there are other ways to do isolation, there are other ways to do density. We didn't necessarily need that. Was it ever gonna, if Kubernetes didn't come along and we were stuck with some of the solutions that didn't work so great, would we really have dived for it? I think already in terms of debugging, troubleshooting systems, writing unit tests, I think it's shown its value and I think it will stick. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a load of VC money coming in, going around in circles, going down the drain, whether the ROI, what the economics will be when the market gets shaken out. And I would be quicker debugging this thing with AI, but is the company going to spend $120 on that every time? We have a problem? I don't know, but I think it's shown its value. Now, whether we give it right access, and whether we get this super intelligence and whether we replace humans with that, I don't know. But I think in some form, LLMs, transformer-only models are going to be here for the long run.
Yeah, I think for me, I think you mentioned mandates from management, you shall use AI tools and things like that. And I'm really kind of bored of the personal productivity narrative and the efficiency narrative around AI. I spent a lot of this year building teams of agents that could accomplish tasks and things like that. And that wasn't a personal productivity tool. That was delegation, complete delegation to these systems. And I think that's what's really, really interesting. And the type of work that agents are good at, thankfully, is really, really boring, repetitive work. And so I'm quite hopeful that, like, once all of this thrashing is done, we're going to figure out what work we can actually delegate to these systems, so we can focus on things that are more creative and human. That's my hope. I hope these agents don't take all of our jobs overnight. But that's certainly the vision some people are painting.
The more I use it, the dumber I think it is. Like, the more I view it as a tool and not like an intelligence.
Yeah.
And I can see, like, okay, this intelligence, it knows all of our past knowledge, but it has no creativity about what is the future. So I have the same hope as Hannah that it's good for our repetitive stuff, and the same concern about cost. Like, who knows how the chips are going to fall as far as cost goes.
I do appreciate that you bring up the comparison to Kubernetes, because also, I don't know about you, but like, there's some people who are being forced to use Kubernetes even though they don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no value for them to actually use Kubernetes. I mean, I've been a consultant for quite some time, and I've gone to a lot of companies where the maturity was not there to actually be using a tool like Kubernetes. So it's kind of like, as sad as I am to say that, but I also feel like we're at the point now where AI has proven its value as a tool, and now we just have to like try and be smart with it. The same that we kind of like are coming around now to Kubernetes and understanding like the power of Kubernetes outside of container orchestration. So I'm feeling like it's here to stay. We just have to be smart about it.
I'll chime in with the inevitable security person's response.
Thank you, Rory.
Which is, it's fair to say that my experience of current AI tooling, a lot of it is the epithet of move fast and break things, applies extremely much to how AI is going, and security concerns, let's just say I don't think they're at the forefront of people's minds. Unfortunately, attackers have already shown extreme aptitude into adapting and using AI, and we're starting to see LLMs being used as part of that. And I think that as AI hype dies back, hopefully people will say, that's an interesting use case, but can we actually do it in a safe way that isn't going to involve all our money ending up in some blockchain somewhere where we didn't intend it to, or all our data ending up on a website we didn't want it to go onto. And that, for the time being, probably isn't at the front of everyone's mind. It's more, how do I use this thing quickly? And for the big companies, how do I make my next round of VC funds?
So what do we think the next hype is going to be? I've heard a few people, like at this conference and in other places and on Orange site online, talk about quantum computing being the next hype cycle, but the applications of that are extremely narrow, and the potential for that spiraling into a really wild hype cycle, I think, are...
Will someone here school me about what is quantum computing and what are those narrow things?
That's part of the problem. It's really difficult for somebody who doesn't do quantum computing professionally to understand what... We're going to eat good on talks at conferences that are just explaining what a qubit is, for sure. Because it is difficult to conceptualize, and it's very little like traditional computing. But
I did a presentation on this in high school, so clearly I'm the expert here.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently, listen, okay, here we go. So what it is instead of bits, we're using qubits, and they're better.
Yeah.
And thanks.
There you go.
Now, apparently, the thing that I heard about it is that it will revolutionize the way that we encrypt. Because apparently, if you're doing quantum encryption, you're just going away from the way that we understand how we do, because all the encryption stuff is based on math and prime numbers or something, and it just won't work the same way anymore, because apparently with quantum computing, you can just crack any,
That's what I heard about quantum computing. You can crack any password. And
my passwords
people are
are only,
saving up old passwords ready for the moment where everything can be destroyed.
There you go.
The security, I was going to say something, but the security guy's twitching.
Yeah, Rory's cringing over here.
So what I'll say is, yes, in theory, quantum can do that. But in reality, if I were spending money in security, defending against quantum quantum attacks breaking my crypto is so not where I would spend my money. There are 100 other places I would spend my money long before that, like how are we building software and why are we pulling in millions of lines of code that we have no idea where it came from, has probably been written by someone we don't trust. So security is like a wall. You work out where the bit you want the attackers go through the lowest bit. Quantum crypto is somewhere up here. Supply chain attacks are somewhere down here. Attackers are going to go through the low bit of the wall. If I was picking next hype cycle, though, I would potentially pick onshoring or sovereign tech. If you look at kind of wider geopolitical, and look at this week.
Yeah.
US East 1 goes down, and HMRC and Lloyd's Bank's login pages stop working. Feels like they're very still, they probably didn't deploy their workloads to that region, but they were still impacted. And looking at the wider piece, are people happy with that level of dependence on critical systems being in other countries?
Yeah. Plus, did you read about the people who couldn't turn around in their beds because AWS was down for some reason? They were using these smart beds, and apparently they couldn't turn. I don't really understand because I didn't. Yeah, but they overheated, and then also some people just couldn't turn
They
around.
got stuck in the up position,
Yes.
like in the fully sitting up position, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So yes, it's actually they should have done it on edge, really. But I was actually also going to say sovereign cloud seems to. I don't know if it's a hype cycle because it isn't actually something real, and I don't know how many people are, because it sounds kind of unsexy right now. Which you heard it here first. We're going to change that because Jos and I. One of the fellow organizers, we're going to try and put on a conference next year, Sovereign Cloud Conf Europe. You heard it here first. But I hope that this will be something that will maybe just bring us back to a place where we're talking about, policy making and like those kinds of things instead of just like what is possible, but also like what makes sense to do.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things happening at once. I think what we've seen over the past sort of decade or so is this enormous kind of consolidation almost in terms of technology into a few very, very large technology providers and some very, very large SaaS companies that run on top of them. But I think what we're seeing is we're seeing a move away from that with like sovereign cloud, people caring about data sovereignty in a much bigger way. But we're also seeing people move away from like big enterprise SaaS as well. People are like going, well, I can get off Salesforce because Salesforce kind of like, it works sort of for me because it's very flexible and configurable, but it's not a delightful experience. And I can use AI coding tools and I can build the exact thing that my organization needs and I can do it quickly and less expensively than it ever has been before. And I think those two trends together, I think it's the opposite of consolidation. I don't know what it is. It's like going back to bespoke. It's kind of fragmented. It's very custom. And that's quite exciting, isn't it? Like I work with a load of startups and we're trying to think about, well, what does a company that's starting on greenfield today look like? Are we going to buy big SaaS solutions and send our money in that direction, or are we going to build the thing that we need today in a very, very oversimplified way? Because like you can do that now, whereas a few months ago, a year ago, you couldn't.
Now they're picking on me because I almost forgot last time. I don't really have anything else to add to that. Yeah, I think I agree with the onshoring and the sovereign cloud and just the move to on-prem. I think people are getting annoyed with cloud providers and the VC money shook out a while ago, but cloud providers are now public companies that are having to show profit, and we're sort of a duopoly and they're sort of price gouging. So I think people are getting, and they've shown with the AI that they'll just use their position and pull all the levers they can. So I think a lot of people are going to be going away from that. I don't know if it's hype. It just sounds like a lot of work for all of us. I don't even know really how you monetize it. I'm sure some consultants will make a bunch of cash, but yeah, I don't know if it's hype. But if I could pick a hype cycle, I'd be buying stocks, not sitting here, so.
I'm hoping trends move toward a more indie web in general, just with, social media too, and like your own personal RSS feed where you own your content and you're part of the Fediverse, so you can distribute what you want to say, but it's not owned by another company. It's not an algorithm feeding you what you see. Yeah, that's what I hope for. I don't know.
GeoCities?
GeoCities, let's go back, yeah.
Bring back GeoCities and glitter.
Tumblr, let's get back to the Tumblr days.
Blockchain, maybe, yeah.
Justice for the marquee tag.
Check out the Space Jam website because it's still the way it was in 1996. It's so glorious.
It absolutely rules. ZomboCom is down now, though, I think, which is really, truly devastating. That's a part of my childhood died with ZomboCom.
I'm seeing like there's a very young person in the audience just like
Yeah. If you're,
these real
I don't know,
words?
under the age of like 35, you'll probably have to Google ZomboCom. It's worth. I'm sure there's a YouTube video, but it's not the same experience as watching it on Flash, looping endlessly. Okay, so the technology field obviously changes a lot rapidly. Dealing with just the CNCF landscape is overwhelming. It's a lot. It's enough that I don't think we've ever had a KubeCon without a talk that just serves no purpose but to walk people through the CNCF landscape. One of those always has to get accepted because it's too much. So how do you manage staying like at all up to date and fresh on what's going on? Do you go broad but shallow on emerging technologies, or do you kind of hitch your wagon to one star and go for deep expertise? What's your strategies?
You want to go first this time, Matt?
Go, yeah.
Yeah, go.
Oh, me? Oh, I thought you asked me. Sure.
That's your name, right, Matt?
Yeah, I'm next to Hannah. Yeah, that's me. Yeah. I don't want to give the boring answer and say T-shaped. I mean, how do you keep up? Like, conferences are a great way of doing it. Obviously, the internet is full of material, some of it good, some of it bad. I think Dave's left, but David Flanagan's like Raw Code series is really good at giving overviews of all of the CNCF projects, or a lot of them. So as for taking that information in, I think there are a bunch of ways to do it. You can kind of let it come to you. You can go and reach out, and then I think there's definitely a value to staying broad, to knowing what all the new things are, and having like, even if it's you can be able to give a one sentence explanation of what it is, so you don't have any unknown unknowns, so you know what's out there. As for going deep, I think when you've got some potential solutions, you can do your proof of concept, you can go deep. I think a lot of us are probably sort of senior ICs in this room, so I think you obviously are probably going to be a domain expert in one or two things that you really know that you're going to be taking on the complicated systems, you're going to be running them in prod, you're necessarily going to be deep on that, but I think you also need to stay wide to make sure that you're not being blindsided. On the other hand, I would say don't let good be the perfect be the enemy of good, and if you've got a solution and it works, and you've learned it and you've known it, I mean, under some cost fallacy and whatever, but I don't always chase the shiny. If you've gone really deep on something and you know it and it works and you can operate it and you're happy that it's doing what it needs to do, just because something over there might be 10% better, but not only do you have to retool, not only do you have to redo all the code, you have to relearn everything and you have to rewrite all your playbooks. Don't underestimate that. Don't be afraid to be no, I know this, and we're good. I'll back this. I'll back myself running this.
I think that if anyone's read my blog, had the misfortune of doing that, they'll find that what I really like doing is finding really weird things that in a specific area and going, how does that work? And what's going on here? And trying to write down things that only exist in Slack threads or GitHub issues in KK. So I've gone deep. And I think as an advice, you still want to keep an idea of what else is going on. But if I was working in an AI world, and I guess we kind of are whether we want to or not, the one thing it can't really replicate is the really deep knowledge, because it doesn't have the source tokens. Even if it has a couple of tokens, it doesn't have enough to actually make it spit out answers related to it. And every time I ask any LLM, which I tend to try and do, is some deep questions about Kubernetes security, it starts making some wild stuff up. But none of it's actually right. So I think going deep has that benefit in that world, because you can be fairly comfortable that it's going to be a long time before some LLM can just go, there's your answer.
Yeah, in terms of figuring out what to do with technology, I quite like to understand what the tech is and what it does, and I'm quite content not being hands-on with it. I'm quite content with that, because it's okay, well, here's the toolbox. Then when a problem presents itself, you go and pick the right tool for that job. But in terms of going deep on something, I think that's probably my approach personally. I don't feel the need to. It's kind of just in time learning. One thing I did do this year was I went very, very deep on AI agents, because people were making such bold claims about them. and I had to see it to believe it. I just had to see it to believe it, and I had to do it myself. And just reading blog posts wasn't enough for me. But that was, again, it was a very personal sort of need. I felt the need to like prove that the technology actually could do that thing. And like Whitney said, like the more you work with them, the more stupid they seem to you. The first time you see like a team of like 20 agents working together, you're like, oh my God, like, the agents are coming. And then you actually try to build them and they're incredibly stupid and hard to get right. So yeah, like there's two sides to me. It's like, understand what's in your toolkit, but don't worry about being an expert at every tool all at once. But then if you really like, if you really are curious and like, you want to know something, then just follow that curiosity, because it's like tech is fun, isn't it?
Yes, to be honest with you, I think of myself as a pretty okay engineer. I think I can get into things if I sit down and learn them, but I don't have the inert, like some of you probably have, like I really want to understand and I really want to optimize like the last bit of performance or something. That's just not, I'm not super interested in that, and I think that's okay. I learn things just enough so I know about what it's doing, and I feel like I know enough about it. But I think for me, it's like I was lucky enough to find the thing that interests me the most, which is how do people use technology, and how does technology solve people problems? Because like, I believe that most of our tech problems are actually human problems that we're just using tech to solve. So really, if you're able to solve a problem with like barely any like low tech, no tech, I think that's actually often better. So I just learn enough about technology to say, actually, maybe we don't need to use it.
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of CNCF and all that stuff, number one, how do I stay abreast of everything? I do not. Like nobody does, yeah. So just admit you can't know it all, and why would you want to? Two, if you really do, if it's important to your job, you're a systems thinker, I need to understand my toolbox. I'd look at graduated projects first. Then I'd look at like the CNCF annual report and see which ones have high velocity, which ones have high adoption. Ones with big communities around them are ones that where you want to put your money at. They're not going to go away. They're not going to close source overnight, apparently, or maybe. And then so they're less likely to have the rug pulled out from under you. And then if you're still exploring, then maybe you start looking at incubating projects and let the sandbox projects. More power to them. They should do their thing. But in terms of practitioners, like in terms of what you want to adopt, you probably don't want to adopt a sandbox project yet.
I will use that opportunity to pivot on drama that we heard about just before this. So as Whitney alluded to, MinIO went source only with no warning at all, pretty much. And that sucks. Obviously, a lot of people are pinning to latest on their Docker image, and it's just never going to get updated, and they're probably not going to notice until it's too late, and there's some kind of security incident as a result. So I don't personally believe that open source maintainers have an obligation to continue doing anything for anybody for free, period, full stop, even if it sucks and it hurts people. My opinion is a little bit different when it's an open source project that's entirely or almost entirely sponsored by a company making money. Then I think it's different. How do y'all feel about where the line is when an open source project has an obligation to continue functioning to some degree, or at least an obligation to issue a notification when something significant is changing? Because there was no notification on this MinIO thing. They didn't send an email to people or anything.
I don't know a lot about the nitty-gritty of open source and licensing. Like, what license did MinIO have? Did they belong to a foundation? Do you know any of those sorts of answers?
AGPL3 is the license, and I do not think that MinIO belongs to a foundation, but I can find out for you real quick.
Okay.
No
foundation.
Yeah,
okay, so that's part of the reason it was able to happen with that particular one.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
It is a corporate sponsored project.
So, I'm going to turn the question around and say, what is the responsibility of the project versus the responsibility of the person choosing to use a particular open source project?
Yeah, I personally do believe that most of the responsibility lies on the person choosing to use the project, but.
So if you're like, hey, this is run by one company, this license means that they technically own it. I can use it for personal use, but not unless I can't use it. No other company but them can make money off it without their permission with AGPL, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all the warning signs of this might be unsafe are there with MinIO. So I would say more, be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Liz in her keynote, she talked about like the economics and the flow of value and things like that. And I think we could be guilty of being idealists, where like somehow like we all just like can do work for the good of the community for free forever, and sometimes reality bites, doesn't it? And I'm sure it was a difficult decision to pivot like this for them, and it would have been probably a case of survival, probably a case of like, okay, well, we need to try and make more revenue or this company won't exist and then the project is dead anyway. And I know a lot of companies have those very difficult decisions to make. I don't know I don't know anything about their decision making, but I do think that, unfortunately, money is a thing, and it is necessary. And so, it's like these businesses need to figure out how they pay their employees. And I would I don't know. Some people may disagree, but I would probably prefer to see a company try to succeed and continue to pay their employees than to do massive rounds of layoffs and for everyone who is currently using that project to suffer as a result of that, as well as the employees themselves. So there's so many dimensions to it, but money is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is super hard, and like having worked for vendors, like making money in this space is really hard. I don't know the details of this. I think you look at what Linkerd did, you look at what Redis did. There's better and worse ways to do it. Like none of them are perfect. I think you asked an actually really interesting question though, Kat, right? Like what is the responsibility? I think if you are essentially the commercial sponsor, the single commercial sponsor of one of these projects, especially if it's AGPL, so you've chosen to exclude others, you do have to realize that is the open source, what we used to call freemium, what we call open core now, I guess. The open source is part of your offering, and it's part of your brand, but it's also like how you treat it, but it's also actually part of your offering. It's your marketing tunnel, for God's sake, right? So like, it seems to me that just like pulling the ladder up on folks trying to use that seems commercially kind of like a bad decision. But yeah, also it doesn't seem to show a bunch of respect for people who are in startups who would buy in 2 years if they had the money, can't afford to now. They're going to slog along like running it themselves, and they would, not even giving them an image. It's a very low value thing to do, but you're just giving a little bit of friction to a lot of people. And I don't know the details, but I'm just like, why? But I think you have to see the free tier as a tier. And what is an open source project? That's not quite the same as the Linux kernel, is it, when it's in that kind of commercial environment? So,
Yeah.
I would also say, like, regardless of what we believe, what do we as a community that's interested in open source and keep an open source as like a space also for people to get into tech? What do we value, right? Because you can, as you say, like as a company, obviously you could ruin your reputation overnight. I mean, like I don't want to name names, but we've seen that recently. Last couple of years, there were a couple companies that really like overnight we just lost our trust in them. And then the question is like, even your actual product, like will people, believe that you will make this available to them at this price forever? And there, speaking of money, I'm wondering how much we are giving the power to investors to define how our community operates, right? Because I could see that an investor's like, oh yeah, we're using this like go-to-market strategy open source to lock people in, and then we do the whole switcheroo, and now, now you have to pay us, and we don't give you notice, so you can't actually spend time to migrate, right? So I feel like there might be space for us as community to be like, okay, what if I just fork it and I maintain it like OpenTofu did, right? And then, we have the power to actually take those things back if we choose to do so.
Sometimes we gotta just fork it. That is all the time we have. So thank you so much to my lovely panelists. You were all smart and wonderful, and thank you all for coming to watch us.